So let me share my screen, and there we go. Hopefully that's okay. So yeah, I wanted to round things out. David talked a little bit about the idea of a data fabric, and that the concept of mobility came out as quite a common theme, I think, through both of the previous presentations, and that's a big area we've been focused on. So let me get straight into it. And I think one of the things that frequently comes up is, and part of the reason my role exists, is to help change the perception as to who NetApp are. I'm fairly sure most people on this call, if I was to ask you the question, who are NetApp, you would probably be thinking storage, NAS, filers, the things that have always been a strong area for us. And in the first wave of IT, the kind of the era of pets, if you like, where we built these physical platforms to support these core workloads and we gave them names and everything else, that still is a big focus for our business. It's still a big focus for a lot of the companies that we talk to. But we changed the company quite significantly as virtualization, that second wave hit. And really our value was data services. And it was then, how do we start to deliver these data services up into these new virtual environments? And I think where we are today is in this kind of what I call the third wave, which is, cloud, containers, and increasingly even moving towards functions and Lambda and things like that as well. And there's a fantastic opportunity for NetApp to continue to provide these incredible data services that we always have provided, but to manifest themselves in new ways to create new value into this new environment. So what is a data fabric? Well, I guess the most important thing to put straight out there right up front is this isn't a NetApp thing. This is not a proprietary thing. What we feel is that as companies think about mobility, which came up fairly frequently, it's this idea to have a data fabric that gives you certain characteristics. The first one being freedom of choice. Petar mentioned OpenShift on AWS. Well, that's a new requirement. So making sure that as you design your fabric, you're aware of that could be a possibility in the future. That could be a requirement for us. And we need our fabric to be able to adapt to support a new hyperscaler. I think is incredibly important. Simplicity. Each of the pieces is quite simple, but it's when you bring them all together, it's called, I call it complexity squared, because Microsoft is simple, Amazon is fairly simple, IBM is fairly simple, but they're all different. So when we think about a data fabric and the value that we can add to it, is how do we bring simplicity back as you start to think about how you manage data across these different locations? We think about protection, whether that's data protection. Is it protected so I can get it back? Is it encrypted? Is it compliant? So there's a whole bunch of other kind of characteristics around protection that we've got to think about as we move to these more multi-cloud environments. And the one that's really starting to come through and is a big area of focus for us right now is insights and optimization. What are we actually consuming across the on-premises infrastructures that we've built and all of the different clouds that we're using? And is it optimized? And I'll come back to that point at the end of my few slides that I've wanted to go through. So as a company, we focus on 7 or 8 kind of core applications or core areas where we see people really, really focused. Everything from file-based data to virtual desktops to IoT edge, AI analytics, a lot of the things that you heard David talking about. But for this session, whilst all of these are a focus for us, I do want to really focus down onto containers and Kubernetes. And in particular, what it is that we bring to these Red Hat, these OpenShift environments. So we believe it all starts with getting the foundations right. And as an organization, what we've been doing is building out this storage fabric to allow us to address the workloads we need to address, regardless of where we want to address them. So, for an on-premises environment to support containers for OpenShift, our HCI platform is probably a really good platform to do that. It has some really good capabilities. But what we've done is taken that core storage operating system, that data management platform, and we have now made that available in IBM, Azure, Amazon, and Google Cloud as well. So now we can start to say, well, what if you could create a consistent set of data services that can be on premises and across any one of the hyperscale provider with consistent protection, consistent security, consistent compliance, all of those different things, So you don't need to code differently as you start to think about the stateful applications that the container environments are moving more towards. So that's been a big focus, is to really start to build out this storage fabric. But what I thought for this session is, you've seen some slides, and I thought I would throw myself at the altar of the demo gods, and I am actually going to switch to a demo. So let me bring the right window forward. Just bear with me. Okay, so there we go. So what you're looking at here, like I say, I wanted to show you what does it mean to kind of bring a data fabric to life. So what you're seeing here is our Cloud Manager interface. So what I'm going to do is effectively add a working environment. So I want to add a data storage endpoint into a cloud. I'm going to add it into Google Cloud Platform. We'll just go for a single instance of the storage device to begin with. There's a few parameters we need to specify. We'll just call it NWGCP, just for NWGCP. Sake of simplicity, and the environment, the password that we need. Continue. Select the region that we want this to run in. I'll just pick US East, and the VPC that we're going to use, and just confirm that we've got connectivity. How do we want to pay for this storage that we're going to consume within Google Cloud Platform? And I'll just do it as a pay-as-you-go. And what's the workload that we're going to be supporting? So I'll pick that it's going to be a database and application workload. We're going to switch all of our tiering, all of our storage efficiency capabilities on. We're going to call the volume that we're going to move to NWGCP, and we're going to make it 100 gigabytes. Confirm all the details and go. That is now bringing online one of our virtual storage devices inside Google Cloud Platform. In fact, it's already done. But what I can also do is I can also discover on-premises systems. So for example, I know there is a system at this location. Give it the password. Add that as well. It's already discovered our on-premises system, and we can add that into our environment as well. So I've now got a system running, a system discovered in my data center, and I've got a destination system running inside Google Cloud Platform. And I could have done that for Azure or for AWS as well. So what if we want to replicate data from our on-premises system into Google Cloud so that we can give people access to data? For us, you simply drag and drop. You choose the network connection that we're going to use, the volume that we want to replicate. I'll just pick volume 0. Do we want to tier data when it hits the cloud? Yes, we do. What's the destination volume going to be called? And how much bandwidth do we want to allow this replication to consume? And do we just want it to be a mirror or a mirror and a backup? So we can just choose mirror. We'll do it every 5 minutes, confirm the details, and click go. And what that's now doing is creating an immediate replication relationship back. It's already done it. So within the last few minutes, I've brought an environment online inside Google Cloud Platform. I've connected that to our on-premises system, and I am now synchronizing data across those two environments. So what does that mean in terms of containers? Well, you can go to our container option up here. These are a bunch of clusters that or Kubernetes clusters we've already got running. I'll just pick on this one. This is actually a Google Cloud cluster, a Google Compute Engine cluster, but it could equally as be an OpenShift environment. So now I've discovered that cluster. I can now connect that to one of the working environments that we previously looked at. So we will connect that cluster to persistent storage that is running in the Google Cloud Platform. We want to connect it using NFS. We'll just take the defaults for how we're actually going to connect that in terms of the export policies. We can return to the cluster, and what you'll see is it's already starting to make that connection. You know, that could take several minutes to do because there's a lot of automation activities that are happening in the background in order to be able, in fact, it's already done it. I don't even need to talk through it. So what you're seeing there is our ability to bring consistent data services online across Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and on-premises, and be able to connect that stateful data up into different application environments. And the final thing I wanted to show you is we can also do compliance checking. So as you're starting to take this stateful data from your on-premises environment out to different clouds, we can actually start monitoring all of those destination endpoints, including database tables as well, and report on them from a HIPAA perspective, a PCI DSS perspective, or even a data subject report. For example, John Doe just phoned and said he wants to know where you're storing his data. Well, we can type in John Doe, we can investigate the results, and I can immediately tell you exactly where that data is that contains personally identifiable information that would connect to John Doe as a person. So let me flip back to my presentation. So what I was showing you there was effectively a whole suite of these data services that we can start to bring as a part of this fabric that we can connect up into these Kubernetes, these containerized environments. And very much as Petar mentioned as well, I showed you this using Cloud Manager, which is our user interface. It's our way of bringing a fabric to life. But I know that most of you will have higher level orchestration automation frameworks. So we also have built a complete suite of APIs and also Ansible modules. So everything I've just shown you can be coded into higher level orchestration automation frameworks to work alongside everything else that it is you're looking to do. So I mentioned Spot earlier on, and this is really about insights and optimization. What we're now starting to see, we bought Spot as a company only just a few months ago. We've been using container environments in our engineering group certainly for at least 1 to 2 years. We saw Spot as a way of a capability that could possibly optimize that for us. So we brought Spot in to see what it could do within our engineering function to reduce our compute costs. By using Spot and the way that it can start to dynamically provision and unprovision Spot instances in the cloud to support our containerized environment, we were able to reduce our cloud bill by 75%. So what we're seeing is we extend the capabilities of our data fabric, not just from storage and providing persistent storage into containers. What we're now starting to do is using some of our capabilities like Insights and Spot, is we're able to give you a complete pane of glass to show you what you're doing where across any cloud, and how we could start to optimize that for you, where we could find ways to reduce the costs, to optimize those container environments to continue to drive down the costs. And again, we can do that through one tool consistently across all of the major hyperscale providers. So I think it really just leaves me to finish off that I think Red Hat and NetApp are certainly, in the environment that we're moving towards, are certainly better together. So on that note, I will stop sharing. Thank you for your time, and I will hand back to David.
Great. Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you, Petar. Petar, it was, I think, great to hear you mention your story, describe your story. I always love to hear those stories as well. And thank you for mentioning Ansible and how you use that. I think the automation piece is critical. Kubernetes and OpenShift really don't stand alone. They need the ecosystem of Ansible. They need the underlying storage. Yeah, very, very, very closely coupled together. And as well, Matt, great to hear about what NetApp is doing. And I think that consistent storage layer, the data layer underneath the container platform is critical. That spans not just on-premise, but all the cloud platforms that customers may use, because the multi-cloud is multi-cloud approach is something more and more customers are starting to take, or at least having both on-premise and cloud. So with that, I think we'll wrap it up. Please do put questions in, if you have not already, into the Q&A box, and we will address those as they come in. All right, thank you both, and appreciate your taking